name is Cameron,
I'm Maddie.
I'm Chloe. And I'm Ronnie.
and this is our presentation covering to what extent does financial literacy influence levels of anxiety and depression amongst college students. So here's our table of contents. We're going to do an introduction where we cover a couple of quick facts that pertain to our research. We're then going to define our variables and talk about our literature review. After that, we're going to talk about our research objectives and then our 2 hypotheses that we came up with. After that, we're going to talk about our survey plan as well as our sample plan. And then after that, we're going to talk about our participant demographics as well as descriptive demographics. We're going to go over our analysis method and then wrap it up with some implications and results. So these are just a couple quick facts that we need to talk about. By a show of hands, who here believes that they have struggled with financial anxiety or do struggle with financial anxiety? So that's almost everyone. That backs up our research, which shows that about 80% of Americans do struggle with financial anxiety, and that 30% report moderate to severe financial anxiety. College students face increased financial stress, and this is due to newfound independence. And then financial literacy does play a key role in financial well-being, but financial literacy does remain low nationwide. And then our research is set to explore the relationships between financial literacy and mental health in college students. Next, we're going to define our variables. Our independent variable is financial literacy, and this can be described as the ability to understand and effectively use financial skills to make informed financial decisions. Think about any sort of financial education that you've received in your past and how well you'd be able to apply that to making financial decisions nowadays. Our dependent variable is anxiety and depression in college students. Anxiety is a feeling of excessive worry about future events or uncertainties, and depression is a persistent feeling of sadness, hopelessness, or a loss of interest in activities, which often affects daily functions or routines.
Next, I'm going to go over some of our literature review and research we did before conducting our own research. Starting with financial anxiety in the United States. Financial stress is one of the leading sources of anxiety in many adults, with, as Cam said, 80% reporting anxiety about their financial situation. Next, we wanted to know why this was, and we looked into financial literacy levels in the U.S. As Cam also mentioned, they've remained low for the past 8 years. They've been at about 50% across America. This is likely influenced by the lack of financial education courses. They're often not required in public schools, meaning most college students enter college and take out loans with no prior knowledge or education on how to manage their finances. Next, we looked into the financial behavior of college students, which varies from student to student and is often influenced by their background and socioeconomic status. We found that a study from Virginia Tech that says that students with prior guidance, whether it be from an educator, peer, mentor, or parent, are more likely to succeed with their future financial decisions. And that, however, this doesn't seem very common, as only half of college students report budgeting their money, and only half of college students know how much they will owe in student loans post-grad. To tie this into mental health, the National Education Association reports that 70% of college students will struggle with their mental health while pursuing a degree. They also found that those in financial hardships are more likely to suffer from poor mental health, and those with poor mental health are more likely to make poor financial decisions. So they just keep adding on to each other. After gathering this research, our key question emerged, which is to what extent does financial literacy affect levels of depression and anxiety in college students. Next, we set some research objectives. These were to identify our dependent and independent variables and then determine if there's a correlation between the two. Next, we created our hypotheses. Our first hypothesis is students who are employed are more likely to be able to cover an unexpected expense compared to students who are employed. And our second hypothesis is students who believe their mental health is affected by their financial literacy levels will report lower levels of financial stress.
Alright, moving into our survey plan, it was designed to investigate the relationship between our dependent variable of anxiety and depression in relationship to our independent variable of financial literacy. Throughout week 1, we established a survey design that was able to deepen our knowledge on the relationship between our 2 variables. Throughout week 2, we tested our survey on 15 randomly selected individuals, and we made any changes necessary following that. From weeks 3 through 5, we gathered survey responses mainly through the use of our Instagram and Snapchat stories, but also through some canvassing of the campus. From week 6 to the present, we've been analyzing our data and forming any correlations we could. And then, in order to measure our variables, we first needed to know who our sample was. So we asked general demographic questions, including their household income, their gender, age, university, and then their ethnicity, or university class. And then, in order to gauge our dependent variable, we wanted to know students' current levels of mental well-being. So a question that we asked regarding that was, how do finances affect your day-to-day life? In order to gauge our independent variable, we really wanted to figure out their financial strengths and weaknesses at the time. And a question we asked to gauge that was, to what degree do you feel confident that you could make an unexpected major payment at the time?
For our sample plan, our target population is college students between 18 and 25. Since the survey's goal was to understand the perspectives and experience of college kids, this is what we narrowed down our eligibility to. We chose convenience sampling as our primary method because it would provide us with a quick and wide reach across campus. Given the challenge of obtaining about 300 answers, we were warned by Dr. Park that this is a very big task and we might not hit our goal. We still tried our best and we still tried to reach as many students as we possibly could. Convenience sampling allows us to maximize participation in high traffic areas with a limited amount of time. So we targeted students with QR codes, we stood outside NLD, we stood in Jamrich, and we provided them with any different emails and social media that they could reach, which also had our QR codes as well. For our participant demographics, our survey sample showed a skewed distribution between the targets between male and female, with about 70% of females answering this survey and 30% male. In the survey, we analyzed the relationship between financial literacy and mental well-being. This targeted mainly our students in college, but not limited to other education levels. The average range of our participants was 18 to 25, fitting into our target demographic range of age being 17 to 26. And in the study, we found that 47% of college students lacked a basic understanding of financial literacy. We were able to conclude that about 75% of respondents linked their mental health struggles to their finances, whereas about 47% of respondents lacked just basic financial literacy skills overall. College-age students found that their mental health issues were linked in some capacity, in some way, to financial issues, no matter what that issue might have been, whether it's anxiety, stress, or depression, or, bills, lack of money in savings accounts, or even the lack of a bank account at all. We also learned that about 50-60% taught about stronger financial consciousness compared to those that did not have prior knowledge. The survey samples were mostly white people, about 97% of white people responded, and the average household income did report about $50,000 per household. We suspect this is because most respondents accounted for their parents' income. The final topic of study was our sample's current financial position. We asked these questions because we realized that this can often affect mental well-being and allows us to analyze their correlation.
So we're going to talk about our analysis method. We compared two sets of questions from our survey, which help us analyze our hypothesis and bring us closer to finding results. Our first set of questions was question 6, which reads, which statement best describes your employment status? And question 16, which was a Likert scale that reads, I feel confident I can handle a major unexpected expense. Our next set was question 11, which was also a Likert scale that reads, I feel confident about my current financial situation. And then question 12, which reads, to what extent do you believe your financial literacy affects your overall mental health? So from that, we decided to use an independent t-test to analyze our data. So why did we use a t-test? Well, this was for a couple of reasons. First, we were comparing two independent means, being the comparison of each sets of our questions. Additionally, our sample size of our data required that we use the t-test. After removing invalid responses, we only had close to 100 responses to work with, so that did require us to use a t-test. And then finally, other tests such as ANOVA or chi-squared simply did not fit the requirements needed to analyze our data.
Moving on to our results. For our first t-test, we grouped together anyone who indicated that they were employed and another group of unemployed people and compared it to the question, I feel confident I could handle a major unexpected expense. Our results unfortunately were not significant, but we did find that a higher percentage of the unemployed group said they could handle an unexpected expense, which is not what we thought would happen. And for our next t-test, we created a group of people who reported being stressed about their financial situation and compared that to the question, to what extent do you believe your financial literacy affects your overall mental health? Unfortunately for this question, we also did not get a significant result as our p-value was 0.14.
Alright, so throughout our research project, we did find several major implications that did affect our overall response validity. A first implication that we found was that the majority of college students who are currently unemployed are able to handle a major unexpected expense at the time. We suspect this is because they are seeking some level of financial support either from a parent or a family member. Our next implication was that there was a lack of diversity in our sample. We suspect this is because we use limited sampling methods of our friends and followers on Snapchat and Instagram, along with our college campus, which is not the most diverse. Next, we really only had 2 weeks to collect data before we were doing a data analysis, which we felt limited the reach of students that we could meet. And in return to that, we had a very small response rate of 103 valid participants, which did not help our validity overall. Our final implication was that our survey content lacked clarity. It was sometimes confusing to the students who were completing it, and they might have answered not what we expected. And so it was also very heavy on financial literacy questions, but very light on mental well-being questions. This made it very difficult for us to make a correlation between our two variables because we did not have much to go off of for implications, or for mental well-being. Thank you.